Hello and welcome to JS Funk. So in this video we are going to see Flutter BLOC pattern followed by provider using inherited widgets. So basically we are going to create this form which has a basic email input field and a password field along with a submit button. And if I type any wrong email address, it is giving me an error, but if I enter a correct address, it works fine. Same goes if I enter a password less than 4 characters, I get an error, but if I increase the character size, the error vanishes. So this is all using the provider currently, but we are going to see how we can convert a block pattern into a provider. So let's get started. I'm just going to quit this and let's just create a new application using Android Studio. So this is basically the free version of the application, and I'm just going to start a new project. Okay, as soon as you land to the project, you will be welcomed with this main.dart, which somehow reminds me of Golang, main.go, but yes, I'm going to delete this test file because in this video we are not going to work with the test. And as well in the main.dart, I'm going to delete everything. Yes, I'm going to delete everything. Okay, and as well going to delete this. So the only thing which we have is the main function and the import from material. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to add, first of all, let's just simply add a simple stateless widget. And I'm just going to call this as my app, which extends stateless widget. Okay, so stateless widget has to have a build method. We are going to quickly add that. And over here, we need to return a widget. So I'm going to do that since I have already imported this. Okay, so material app, I'm just going to give it a basic title, nothing fancy. And home, we are going to use the scaffold. Use whatever you wish. Okay, so scaffold is going to have, instead of scaffold you could even use container. So inside this scaffold I'm going to use body, and this body is going to have something. So that something is going to be our form. But that form I'm going to create it in a separate file. Okay, so let's just create that separate file over here, and I'm going to call it as login form. Okay, so login form is again going to be on another stateless widget. All right, implement the missing method. So over here, I'm going to return a container. For some reason, it imported cap, this one, but I don't want this one. I want the material one. Okay, I'm going to have a children over here. Of course, I'm not going to go into basics of Flutter, but this is simply mainly, this video is mainly targeted towards the block pattern and the provider approach. So I'm going to add a form over here which accepts a child, and the child is going to be a column since I need to add 3 childrens. So children is going to be an array of widget. I like to pass types. It's a good way of telling what you're going to return, even for your eyes. And okay, so first of all, I'm going to have an email field over here, which would be very simple. We can define it in a separate function. Okay, let's do that because I don't like to clutter my code over here. So let's just create another function over here. So this is going to be returning a widget, and I'm going to call it as email field. So email field is going to return us widget. Okay, so you can keep this as a text field or as well as form text field. I'm not sure, but there is one more field. But I'm going to stick with text field because that is what we need when we are using the block pattern. Alright, so text field accepts an onChanged method as well as some decorations. So we're going to start with decorations first, and these are going to be input decoration, and I'm going to give it a label text. So label text is what appears above your input field. Email. Okay, we are also going to have an error text. We'll just keep it as it is just for now, but it is not going to be used as of now, but we'll just add it. Invalid email address. Okay, and let's just load this into our children in the column. Oh yes, so I forgot to call our login form over here, so I'm just going to call the login form. Okay, by the way, this is actually the new login form, but since we are using the Dart2, it's not compulsory to use the new keyword. Okay, so we have this login form, and which is this guy, and we also forgot to add the run app, which is again from material, from the Flutter, and I'm going to pass my app over here. That's it, and pass these semicolons. I keep forgetting this. I wish the Flutter had some FMT auto format which would add the missing things for you, but that's it. So far it looks good, and let's try to run this. Flutter run. Okay, so I'm just going to minimize this and see how it looks. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, our error invalid email address is showing up already. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this guy. As well, I'm going to add a bit of margin to our container. So this is just going to be an all sides margin, and I'm going to give it a 20 pixel margin from all the sides, and just hit R. It should reload and see how it looks. Okay, it looks good. So let's just quickly add the password field and as well as the raised button. So I'm just going to copy paste this password field. Okay, there is something else I want to add to this text field. So I want to let the Android phone to know that this is a keyboard type of email address. So text input type dot email address. Okay, and same thing goes for the password field, and this is going to be obscure text true, so which would hide it with a star. Okay, the thing which I missed out is, okay, by the way, the @ sign is coming up over here now, and it is all as well telling me that this is an email field, which is good. Let's quickly change this labels password, and there is no hint for the password. All right, let's also add the raised button, which is simply going to be a simple button, nothing fancy. So which is going to be over here. Okay, so it needs a little bit of margin from the top. So I'm going to wrap this again, the submit button, into a container. But it is also going to have a margin from the top. Okay, we'll say only, and we'll say top, which is going to be 20 pixels. Okay, so we have our basic application running. Now what we need to do is we need to add the block pattern. So for that you need to have a file over here, a separate file function, and this is completely option, the things I'm creating, like the folder I'm creating, but just to keep the code clean and simple. Okay, so this is just going to be a simple class, nothing fancy, okay, which extends nothing, and we are going to basically this is going to use the inbuilt features from Dart, the streams, which is available under Dart async. Okay, and we have two fields over here, in email and password. So I'm just first of all going to create a private variable, that is email, because we don't want to expose this to public, and this is going to be a stream. So I'm quickly going to create a stream controller and a sync, not the transformer, the controller. Okay, so we know that email is a type of string. Okay, and let's just have it for password as well. We need to have something to add the data to our stream. So we are going to have a function which is get. This is going to be a get function, change email address, which is going to be a function, and it is actually our sync dot add. Okay, and it is like this. Same thing goes for password. So we are going to have it as change password, and of course this is going to be public because this is what we want to expose. It's also a good idea to specify the return type of the function, which is a function which accepts a string to retrieve the data. So this is again going to be a getter, and which will be simply called email, and which is going to be a stream of email. Okay, so far so good. And also have it for the password, which is going to be underscore password, and also specify a return type. So this is a stream of string, so it needs a dispose function, kind of like once you open a sync you also have to close it. So I'm just going to call it destroy. We are going to close our syncs, email dot close. Same thing for the password. All right, so this can be named anything ABCD, but it needs to have a function close. That is what it was saying. Okay, so far we have a simple block pattern ready. Either you can declare it globally like this over here. So I'm just going to say final. I'll call it as block is equal to new block, and you can access it over here into the form directly. So let's just import the block. This is the bad side of the block pattern, but we can import it over here. So I'm simply going to import it. I'll just call it over here somehow, then it would get injected. Okay, there are a few things that we need to change over here. The first and foremost thing is we need to convert our input field, that is the text input field, text field into a stream. We are not going to convert it. Basically, we are going to wrap that into a stream builder, and let's just do that. Okay, and stream builder accepts a stream, which is our block dot email. This is the get part. We are retrieving the value of the email, and this is the builder part. Okay, and builder is a function which has a context as well as a snapshot of your stream. Okay, I'm just going to give it a types, also going to give it a type. So let's just return the text field, and inside this text field we also need to pass the function which would update our stream, which is onChanged, and which is going to be block.change email. Okay, and all right, let's see if it is working fine. I'm just going to save this, reload it over here, and check it in the browser. Okay, there is nothing happening over here. Okay, not even a single validation is happening, but be assured the data is going to our stream. Let's quickly add the validation to our input field by simply creating a validator, which is kind of a mix-in, but I'm also going to add it to the blocks file, and I'm going to call it validators. Okay, and this file is basically the simple functions, so I'm not going to explain much into this. This is just a simple class which has some functions. This is just a simple function which we need to create it for validation of our email. So I'm just going to call it validate email. But the interesting part over here is this is going to be a stream transformer. Stream transformer is something which checks our stream and transforms it, kind of like a map into your observables. Okay, and okay, of course I need to import .async package. Okay, and stream transformers from handlers, we are specifically telling what we are giving it and what we are going to return. Okay, so stream transformers, this is since we know this is just to validate the email, and it accepts a function called handle data, which receives the value from the user, which is the input value. Okay, and the sync is the actual sync which we are attaching it to. In our case, this is the sync, which is this one. Okay, sync email.sync. Okay, so this is going to be an event sync, and I'll just try to add the type. Okay, perfect. Event sync of a string. Okay, since this is just a basic code, I'm just going to copy it quickly to save our time, and same thing goes for our password. All right, so far we have a validate password and a validate email. Let's just quickly add it to our block. I'm just going to call it extends validators. Okay, if you had something else, more transfer validators, you can use the with, like with and something, some class. Okay, but in our case we just have one validator, and we are going to attach it to our stream dot transform, and the stream name, which is validate email, and same for the password, validate password. All right, so another thing which we have to update into our code is whenever we receive an error, we need to display it over here, right? So we quickly add it. So this is going to be error text. By default, it will be null. So we'll get that from our snapshot, which is over here. So snapshot dot error, and we'll need to do the same thing for our password field. All right. Okay, so we forgot to convert this into a stream builder. So let's just quickly do that for our password field. Okay, I forgot to close this. Okay, reformat. All right, let's see how it looks. Okay, so I just did a shift reload. Okay, so what we did so far is we just connected our stream controller, stream builder, with a block class, and which is a stream of text. Okay, and if I type a wrong email address, it is giving me an error. If I type a good email address, it works. Same thing. Okay, and okay, email format is incorrect. Okay, I added an extra space for the password. Okay, the problem is over here. So basically I forgot to change this, guys. Let's see it again. So let's try to add something, ajinkya@gmail.com. okay, and same thing for the password. If I enter anything less than 4, it gives me error, and it works. So far we have a simple block pattern, but this is really bad. Let's just convert the block pattern into a provider, and we are going to use InheritedWidget for that. So I'm just going to call this as provider, and this provider is going to be a simple class. All right, also delete the global variable over here, and this provider is going to be an InheritedWidget, which extends InheritedWidget, which I needed from material. All right, so it is telling me that I need to implement update should notify method, and I need to add the missing method. All right, and so far we're just going to return true. So we are not going to do anything fancy over here right now. We'll just say return true. Always return true. Okay, and this provider is going to have a block to consume, which is block. All right, and we need to have a method. So to find out this specific provider using the context, we are going to use a static method over here of. We'll be able to find the specific provider into our context using this method. So this is build context and context. So inside this context, we are going to find out our specific context. So context dot depend on InheritedWidget of exact type. Okay, and dot. Now this dot block is not working because we did not specify the exact generic type, which is this provider. and now it should work. Okay, that's it. The one more thing which we have to specify over here is, okay, by the way, why it is crying? Undefined class block. Okay, I forgot to import this. Okay, another thing which we have to provide is a constructor. Okay, so this constructor is needed so that we'll be able to wrap it over here into our main app. So this is going to be this constructor which accepts a key, type of key, and the name is key, accepts a widget with the name of child. All right, and I'm going to quickly initialize this over here itself. So we need to pass the same thing to our inherited widget. Okay, key is going to be key, and child is going to be the child. That's it. Let's just quickly attach the provider to our application into our my app. Inside our build method, instead of returning a material, okay, material app, we are going to return our provider class which we just created. And it is going to have a child material app. Okay, and that's it from the scaffolding part of the provider. And inside our login form, where we were initially using this block over here as a global final object, instead of that, we are just simply going to call the instance of that block from this provider of method. We specifically made this of method as static, so we don't have to instantiate the provider class. Okay, so I'm simply going to call the same block over here as a final, which is going to be a type of block, which is a block is equal to provider of. Okay, and this context is this context. All right, so we are trying to say over here is find the provider into this context. Okay, and this of method takes care of the rest of the things. All right, so we have the block over here, and instead of using this globally, we are going to pass it over here like this. And now we need to pass this block to this two guys over here like this. And let's see if it is working now, and just simply going to shift restart. And let's see. Okay, I'm typing a wrong email address. Now it works. I'm typing 3 letters, 4 letters, and 5th letter. Okay, so it works, and this is how simple it is to create a provider using InheritedWidget. There are few more ways of creating a provider pattern, but I find this one to be the simplest one, and this is the block pattern. And that's it from this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I usually post videos related to JavaScript and Golang, but I recently started into Flutter as well. So stay tuned. More gaming videos are going to be there. So don't forget to hit the bell icon. Bye bye.